Namaste and good morning to all of you. Let's start the class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhu Bhuvaswaha, Tatsavitre Vareneyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Asto ma satgamya tamso ma jyotirgamya mrityorma amritam gamya. Om sahna bhavatu sahna bhunaktu saviryam karvavagi tejasvi navadhitamastu ma vidveshavahi. Om shanti 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 om. So today is a day to go over the verses written by Adi Shankaracharya ji. And the name of the book is Vivekachudamani. Okay. And as you all know, this is a great scripture in Sanskrit, encouraging us to attach to the real and detach from the unreal. Attach to the truth, because that's who we are, the truth. And anything which is untruth, detach from it slowly. So now we are on verse number 371. Let's look at it, what he's telling us to do. देह प्राण इंद्रिय मनोबुद्धि आदि भी उपाधि भी ये वृते समायोगः तत् तत् भावः अस्य योगिनः. So Deh is the body, Pran, the vital energy, Indriya, sense organs, Mano, the mind, Buddhi, the intellect, Adi means etc. and Upadhi bhi with the conditionings. These are the conditionings. Conditionings on what? On the Atma. Conditioning. So with the conditionings, that is the body, prana, sense organs, mind, intellect, etc. Next line, yeah, with whichever, okay, whichever or whatever, vrite of the thought, samayoga, association, tat, that and that, bhavaha, nature, asya, of this, yogina, of yogi. This is the body, prana, sense organs, mind, intellect, etc. With whichever of these conditionings the mind gets associated, the yogi also gets transformed, as it were, into that. Remember, in this verse, this word yogi is used in a particular sense. Ordinarily, we say yogi means who is identifying with the higher, who has been united with the highest. That's a yogi. But over here, this yogi means a yukta, joined or yoked with. So yogi means who is yoked with. If we are yoked with the body, we think we are the body. If we are yoked with the senses, we think we are the senses. So in that sense, this yogi word is used over here. Okay. So it's like a identification. Conditioning really means identification. Identification with the various equipments or the functioning of the equipments. So these are the equipments. Body is equipment, senses are equipment, mind is equipment, intellect is equipment. So temporarily we get transformed. We just get lost actually. We lose our higher reality and we just forget about who we are. We think we are the limited. That's what the upadhi is. Upadhi. Another way you can understand upadhi is limited, limitations. So these are the limitations. Body is limited. Okay, it has a form. Mind is limited too, compared to the Atma. Intellect is limited too. So that's why these are called upadhis. When we identify with any pain in the body, we become the sufferers of that pain. We even start saying that, oh, I am sick. Right? I am, the Atma can never be sick. But we start saying, I am tired. This is a yoking. This is the union. We start identifying with the body. Instead of saying my stomach is not feeling good, I am hurting. So it's almost like in a deep sleep, what happens? In a deep sleep, we get detached from the pain of the body also, because we have moved in a different place. So through our identification, we come to experience exactly the condition of the equipment. So in a deep sleep, we are detached from the body. When we come back to the body, we are attached to the body. So this is what he's talking about over here. Okay, so remember that yogi doesn't mean in the sense we talk about yogi who is attached with the higher. So it's like a attached with that equipment. There's another word we normally use, the bhog. Bhog and yoga. So deliberately he's using the word yoga so that it becomes easier for us to understand. Let's look at next verse. tat nivrityah mune samyak sarav upramanam sukham samdrishyate sadanand ras anubhav vipalvah. Tat nivrityah, with the removal of that. And what are we removing? Removal of that association. Mune, for a man of reflection, Muni. Samyak, completely. Sarava upramanam sukham, the joy of the total withdrawal. Samdrishyate is found. Sadanand ras anubhav vipalvaha, the eternal experience of being and bliss. When this is completely removed, okay, what are we trying to remove? That upadhi. So when this is completely removed, a man of reflection, Muni, is found to detach easily from everything and to get into the eternal experience of being and bliss. Eternal experience. Because we have to reflect upon it. After studying the scriptures, we need to reflect. We need to get the correct understanding that how to renounce this attachment with the temporary. The meaningless embracing which we have with the non-self. So when a person has done that, naturally, he will get to experience the joy of total withdrawal. Sarava upramanam sukham. Upramanam. Raman means roaming. Up means high. Mind is roaming in the higher realm. Otherwise, mind is attached to the lower. So this is upramanam, sarava upramanam sukham. So that means that person is released from all the pains and the sorrows. Because it's roaming in the higher. Ordinarily in the world, we are joyous when we acquire something. But over here, he's talking about the gain of that supreme joy from the withdrawal of this. Because this lower world, it keeps on changing. When it changes, it gives us pain. We don't like the change. So over here, a Muni has reached to that higher realm, and that higher realm is the nature of the real self. So that's where the joy is coming. So that's why towards the end he says, he comes to experience the eternal being and bliss. Okay. So he's just like so fully immersed in that. No pain, no suffering, no change. Because fully detached from this lower. So now, in the next few verses, he's telling us about vairagya, detachment. External and internal vairagya. Antah tyagah, bahi tyagah, viraktasya eva yujyate, tyajati antar bahi sangam, viraktaha tu mumukshya. Antah tyaga, internal renunciation, internal dispassion. Bahityagaha, external renunciation. Viraktasya, for a man of dispassion, detached person. Ev means alone, yujyate is possible. So this kind of a roaming in the higher upramanam is possible only for this kind of a person. So this is the sadhana we need to do. Tyajati renounces antar bahi sangam, internal and external attachments. Viraktaha, man of dispassion. Tu means but, mumukshya, because of his desire to be liberated. We do something because we have a desire. So this kind of a Muni, this is that he is desiring that. He is desiring the liberation, and he understands this liberation cannot happen without renouncing all this. So a man of dispassion alone is fit for this internal and external renunciation. For the man of dispassion, viragi, out of his desire to be free, readily renounces both internal and external attachments. So, in essence, renunciation means giving up. So, giving up of the external world of objects is external renunciation. Giving up of the sensuous thoughts of indulgences is internal renunciation. Like in your mind, you just keep thinking about it. You are not there. You are not in that company. But you still keep roaming your mind in that. So he's saying renounce from that. So renunciation, external and internal, we need to cultivate. And it can be successfully achieved only by such an individual who has developed a dispassion towards worldly things. And where does it come from? Dispassion is not throwing away the things. This is after sufficient study, listening to a guru, reflecting upon it deeply, and also understanding the hollowness of this world of objects. Hollowness. That's how you develop the sense of renunciation towards them. And then he says the person is fit to become, it's not a viragi yet, fit to become a renunciate. Okay. Sure, first with the physical objects, then ultimately in your thoughts also. Because external objects to throw away, to give it away, it's very easy. But attachment for them in your mind is more difficult. That's why he's using this word, bahir and antar, both. So a man of total dispassion, viraktaha, alone can effectively give up his attachments towards the objects because his entire attention has turned towards the greater goal. So for something higher, we can let go of the lower. So we got to have an eye on the higher. Then we can let go of the lower. Okay. So without understanding where we are going, what our goal is, we really cannot renounce. So that's why studying of the scriptures is very important. Listening to the gurus is very important, because otherwise we are not familiar with that higher. So for higher, let go of the lower is easy. Most of us came to this country. We had to start from the basics. As we just kept improving our monetary situation, it was easier to let go of the apartment for a house. Easier to let go of that small house for a bigger house. It was easier to let go of the smaller job for a better job. Letting go. But over here we are talking about that high, which is our ultimate goal, not just in the material world. The goal, ultimate goal, the supreme goal. And he's telling us, you will have eternal bliss there, not just a momentary happiness, eternal bliss. So this word dispassion or vairagya actually has two different meanings. When you look at the word meaning, there are two ways you understand it. One is a total absence of desire. That's a vairagya. And the other one is a special attachment. Okay? So Sanskrit is such a deep language. In order to explain this, the writers have written that vigata ragaha viragaha. Vigata means absence. Absence of attachment is virag. And then he says visheshan ragaha viragaha. Visheshan means a special. Special rag is also a virag, because V means special. Okay, so that's why it's very important to understand this deep word over here. We want to detach from this lower and attach to the higher. So vigataha raga viragasya bhava vairagyam. Visheshan raga viraga viragasya bhava vairagyam. So renouncing our present preoccupation, we need to march towards, go towards the highest ultimate goal. And our ego sense, agar ego will let us go only if we have a clear vision of that ultimate goal. Okay. If we didn't know that we are moving into a bigger house, we'll be attached to the apartment. If we were not understanding that yeah, higher position, whether it's owning a company or becoming a president of the company or becoming a manager, we wouldn't have let go of our lower jobs. So the same way we got to know where we are going, what is the goal of life is, or what is the purpose of life is. That should be clear to us. Let's look at next one. He's still talking, explaining to us what this detachment is. Because ordinarily we think detachment in a negative sense. When we understand the real meaning of detachment, this vairag, it's a very positive understanding which we have, then we can really practice it much better. Bahi astu Vishyehi sangam tatha antar aham adi bhi viraktaha ev shaknoti tyaktum brahmani nishtitaha. Bahi means external. Tu means and. Vishye for objects. Sangam, attachment. Tatha means similarly. Antar, internal. Aham adi bhi, to the ego, etc. Viraktaha, a man of dispassion. Ev means alone. Shaknoti is able. Tyaktum, to give up. Brahmani, in Brahma, in that absolute truth. Nishtita, well established. Only the man of dispassion, who is thoroughly established in Brahma, can give up his external attachment for objects and internal attachment to the ego, etc. Okay, so that means there are degrees to this detachment also. It's not either you are detached or you're not detached. You could be attached to something 100%, and maybe with the understanding you can just reduce your attachment. So that's why he says one who is capable of true renunciation, both internal and external, that is the kind of a viragi has been described here. So giving up attachment to the sense objects of the world outside is external renunciation. Bahi tyagaha. Bahi means external, outer. And normally attachment, external attachment really means the egocentric desires for object. Running after the objects. And running away from the object is not really true renunciation. Because objects themselves cannot give anyone any sorrow. The moment we have this idea that I want this, only then the clinging comes. Otherwise, there are countless objects outside. This world is full of objects. But the minute in our own mind we say, I want this, or this will give me happiness, or this will give me prestige, clinging starts. So this is what we have to work on. So that's why I said it is the ego sense. I am not complete without it. Then you start feeling pain and sorrow. So we don't have to run away, but we got to have a proper understanding of this. So giving up the ideas of I, my, mine, etc., that is we are renouncing. And this is all with the ego and the ego prompted thoughts. There's so many children out there, so many people out there, so many cars out there. It's like this world is full of things and full of people. But I, my, and mine, that's where the clinging starts. So renunciation external is possible only for one who has no desire for the sense objects. So desire is the one which we are talking about over here. And that person is called virakta. Virakta. Okay, and ragi is who wants those things. So a dispassionate person can easily give up his preoccupations with the objects, both external and internal. So they are connected actually. Bahi and antar, that's why he keeps on using both words. They are connected. And how this person does it? Because his identification is rooted in Brahma. When you keep telling yourself again and again that you are part of Brahma, which is an eternal joy, eternal bliss, only then you can renounce whatever you are holding firmly right now in the objective world. So we got to, that's why all these gurus, they say, do prayers every day, do meditation every day, do selfless service also, study also, so that mind just goes towards the feet of the Lord. Attach your mind to the Lord. And whatever you get in this world, think it's a prasad. It's a blessing of God. When we take it as a prasad, then we don't cling to it. Okay, then we are thankful to the giver also, who has given. That's how we get a new direction for our mind. The mind which was just endlessly roaming in the world, that mind we have changed the direction towards Brahma. So that is like a positive renunciation. So don't just try to give up things, throw away things without any goal. Keep a positive goal in your mind. Keep the higher goal in your mind. Aspire to be a positive renunciator than the negative one. Because otherwise, the negative connotation, you feel that I'm giving up something. Positive renunciation is, hey, I am gaining something a lot bigger, higher. Now let's look at next one. Vairagya bodho पुरुषस्य पक्षिवत् पक्षो विजानीहि विचक्षण त्वं विमुक्ति सुधा ग्रलतः अधिरोहणम. ताभ्याम बिना न अंतरेण सिद्ध्यति. Pretty long verse. Let's look at word by word. Vairagya bodh. Vairagya is discrimination. We are familiar with that word. I mean, no, sorry. Vairagya means dispassion. Bodh means discrimination. Okay, Vairagya and bodh. So bodh is the discrimination. Vairagya is dispassion. Purushasya, for a man, for a person, for an aspirant. Pakshivat, like that for a bird. Like a bird. Pakshi is the bird. Pakshau. Pakshau means wings. And when they say pakshau, that means two wings. Vijanihi, understand. Vichakshan, a wise man. Tvam means you. Vimukti sodha graltaha adhirohanam. That means climbing. See, adhirohan means going higher. So climbing to the creeper of liberation. Vimukti, that's a liberation. Okay. So climbing to that highest, on top. Tabhyam vina. Without these two. That means over here he is giving us the analogy of a bird without those two wings. Na means not. Anyatrain, with the help of just one. Siddhyati, possible. He says, understand, O wise one, the dispassion and discrimination in an aspirant are like the two wings of a bird. Okay. Unless both are active, no one can take the help of just one and fly to the creeper of liberation, which grows, as it were, atop of a mansion. Okay, for a bird wants to go up on the top of the mansion, cannot go up there just with one wing. So the same way he says, for an aspirant, both are needed. Knowledge also, at the same time, Vairagya also. So again, Vairagya is detachment from the world of objects and the enchantments in our mind of those objects. And both is the higher reality. Understanding what is the goal of life is what is higher. So these two are essential to a spiritual aspirant. So they work just like two wings work for a bird. Okay. So Vairagya and both. So with one, we cannot reach there. And both must be equally strong also and equally long also. In a bird also, if one wing is very small, the other one is long, you have a hard time to go up on the mansion. The same way. And which one comes first? They go hand in hand actually. You start working with one, the other one also you work. Then that one. So it's like they are complementary to each other. It's not that we just work on one and then you start the second one. No, they hand in hand. So if Vivek and Vairagya are not fully developed in an aspirant, then cannot meditate. You can't even do a normal meditation successfully for a long period of time. So soar high into the meditations, land successfully towards those pinnacle of liberation. Okay, there's no other way. Again and again, this Shankaracharya ji is giving us this message. Keep working on these. Right from the beginning, he said, Vairagya and Vivek. So now towards, I would say the last 1/3 of this book, the scripture, is mentioning it again. Okay, different terms now. Virakta, Vairagya, both, but the understanding is the same. Let's look at the next one. अत्यंत वैराग्यवतः समाधि समाहितस्य एव दृढ़ प्रबोधः प्रबुद्ध तत्वस्य ही बंध मुक्तिः मुक्त आत्मनः नित्य सुख अनुभूतिः अत्यंत वैराग्यवता. For a person of extreme dispassion, atyant means extreme. Okay, for a person of extreme dispassion. Samadhi, that is a complete absorption in that highest samadhi. Samahitasya, for a man of samadhi, ev means alone, dridha prabodha, steady realization or a firm knowledge. Prabhuddha tatvasya, for a man of realization or a man of truth. Prabhuddha. See, Buddha word is used for the intellect. When we say Prabhuddha, that means realization. He means alone, bandh mukti, freedom from bondage. Mukta atmanaha, for a liberated soul, nitya sukh anubhuti, experience of eternal bliss. A person of extreme dispassion alone experiences samadhi. Clearly, he is telling us if we have not reached samadhi yet, we got to work on that wing of Vairagya. Maybe we have the knowledge, both we do, but somehow clinging to this non-self is holding us back. So a person of extreme dispassion alone experiences samadhi. A person of samadhi alone has a steady realization, not just a glimpse of your reality, your truth, but steady realization. Dridha prabodha. A person who has realized the truth alone is free from bondage and is a free personality alone has the experience of eternal bliss. So in other words, if you look at it, ultimately, we all want eternal bliss. He is telling us how we can get it. When we are not disturbed by the objects, emotions and thoughts around us, only then we can say that we have this supreme detachment. The minute we see that we get disturbed, that means there's an attachment. Disturbance of the mind is only because of the attachment to something. When it's taken away from you, you get disturbed. Let me read it again. When a person is not disturbed by the objects, emotions, and thoughts. So that means there's a complete detachment, external as well as internal. That is a supreme detachment. In other words, the objects internally as well as externally are no longer disturbing your thoughts. Then alone you can reach the state of Samadhi. Because what is Samadhi? Samadhi is a complete equanimity. Like a samata has to be there. No disturbance in the mind and no disturbance in the intellect. Dhi also, man also. So if there's a fluctuation in either one of them, then you cannot attain Samadhi. And that fluctuation happens because of the objects, because of the ideas, because of the thoughts, emotions. So that's why I said we got to work on those. Transcendental experience is possible only to those who have cultivated complete Vairagya. And Vairagya doesn't mean wearing orange clothes or white clothes. Vairagya is with the mind. And realization is possible only in the state of Samadhi. That's why the ladder of Hatha Yoga, ladder of Raj Yoga, those ladders take us towards the Samadhi. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. So it takes us to Samadhi. So realization is possible only in the state of Samadhi. And a person who has awakened to the supreme state of Brahma, to him alone, total liberation from all the bondages of this sansar is possible. So liberated one alone can have eternal peace, eternal bliss. We all want to experience this bliss. But we want to stay dependent upon the objects also, the situations also. We want to cling to them also. Then this bliss cannot be experienced. This bliss can be experienced only when we learn to revel in our own self. It's a beautiful verse. Step by step, he's telling us what to do, but ultimately work we need to do. So he says a person of extreme dispassion alone experiences Samadhi. A person of Samadhi alone has steady realization. A person who has realized the truth alone is free from bondage. And free personality alone has the experience of eternal bliss. Very emphatically, he's telling us what we need to do in order to reach there where we all are going. That is the goal for everybody. When we reach there, it's up to us. We can take countless lifetimes, but we can do it the right way also. It's up to us. But if we follow this program, so he's giving us a beautiful program over here. This book is almost like a flow chart that he keeps giving us. So I'm sure some of you can create flow charts for yourself and for others also. Put all this knowledge in the form of a flow chart. Let's do one more verse. Vairagyat na param sukhasya janakam pashyami vashyatmanah tat chet shuddhatar atam bodh sahitam swarajye samrajye dhuk etat dwaram ajsar mukti yukte yasmat tvam asmat param sarvatra aspriya sat atmani sada pragyam kuru shreyase. Vairagyat, then dispassion. No param, no greater. Sukhasya, happiness. Janakam, generator. See, Janak is like for a father. Janak word is used. So generator, creator. Pashyami, I find. Vashya atmanaha, for a self-controlled person. Tat means that. Chet means if. Shuddhatar, clear. Atam bodh sahitam, coupled with the self-realization. Swarajye samrajye dhuk, which brings about absolute sovereignty within Swarajye, like a total control over your inner, and Samrajye, outer, so within and without. Etat means this, Dwaram means the gateway, Ajasra, permanent. Mukti yuktehe, to the person of liberation. Okay, mukti yuvte. Yuv means a young person. Yasmat, since. Tvam means you. Asmat param, hereafter. Sarvatra, everywhere. Asapriha, with no attachment, no clinging. Sat Atmani, on the self, which is pure existence. Sat Atmani. Sada means always. Pragyam kuru, fix your mind. Shreyasya, for your own welfare. For a self-controlled man, I find no better generator of happiness than dispassion. And if that is coupled with a clear realization of the self, it brings about absolute sovereignty within and without. So that means that you feel fully controlled of your outer situations as well as the inner situation because of these two, what he's talking about. Vairagya and clarity. And since this is the gateway for the permanent liberation, so it's not a permanent liberation, it's a gateway towards that permanent liberation. So for your own well-being, be passionate both within and without. Always fixing your mind on the eternal self. So in all these verses, he's telling us how important it is to create this quality of renunciation, vairagya. Only then we can say that we have a self-controlled personality. And a complete self-controlled mind is a mind which is not running after the sense objects. They could be around us. The objects are always around us. They are always glaring their beauty towards us. But are we in full control or not? And when this kind of a state of balance is attained, he says, I do not see any other method by which the highest happiness can be gained other than the dispassion. This is what Shankaracharya is telling us. That there's no other way, because we think that maybe some other way we can do it. He says there's no other way. This quality we must cultivate, the dispassion. Because sometimes we think that we have cultivated it and it could be temporarily, which is called a Shamshan Vairagya. We go to a funeral and we think, oh gosh, everything is temporary. Because we know that this body was healthy and enjoying life. And now we see it over there in the coffin, and we just, for a minute or two, or until we reach our car, we feel, yes, that is just a temporary capacity to resist the temptation to indulge in the objective world. But unless, see, Shankaracharya is telling us, unless a person changes his entire mental constitution, the values of life within, an arrangement has to be done. The life has to be lived like that. You cannot expect enduring spiritual growth. Okay, so there has to be some changes in our life, external life also. And this changed attitude is called Vairagya. Others are doing it, that's fine. But you decide to walk on this path by yourself with this kind of a commitment. This is the life of a Vairagya. And there is no pessimism in there. Vairagya is not a sad person. Vairagya is a happy person. Because there is a sense of inner richness in a Vairagya. Because that richness is being experienced. The richness, that bliss, the happiness, which is always there. So along with Vairagya, if such a person also discovers in himself the positive experience of the bliss of the self, the happiness becomes the greatest. That's why we see all the gurus always smiling, always happy. From outside, we might see that maybe the body is suffering sometimes, not enough to eat, living in the old times, even in the cow shed, or they would live in the cremation grounds, but always smiling. And where is the smile coming from? Smile is the experience of the eternal bliss. Okay, so that's why he says he becomes independent of the inner world of thoughts, Swarajya. Swarajya means inner world of the thoughts. I am not my thoughts. I'm not my ideas. I am the self. That is a Swarajya. And outer world of environment, so that's a Samarajya. So outer does not affect, the inner doesn't affect the real me. And he says this Vairagya is the gateway to reach the liberation. And liberation is the goal. You all know that. That's what we are aiming for. So in all places, at all times, under all conditions, practice Vairagya. Reach the state of liberation. This is the Shreyas, he says. Ultimate welfare, ultimate good, Shreyas. Then where is the sorrow? Where is the inauspiciousness? Where is the unhappiness? So this is what he's telling us in these beautiful verses today. Now let's stop it here. Om Purnamada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnase Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much for coming.